It's your boy Hi-Fi Vega, back again. This time we're going to test the Sony XM-7557, aka Big Red. Before we get into the testing of this, I want to kind of go through my setup here and the monstrosity of wire that you're about to see. I've got my meters up front, obviously, so I can get a nice clean view of those. This takes 4 terminals hookup, 2 negative, 2 positive in the remote. Got it run to 4-gauge run into a bigger block here. I've got every single channel hooked up so that we've got all the power supplies driven. 3 of them are hooked up to this homemade resistor bank I have here. Bunch of little 4-ohm resistors. Gives me options for testing things like 4 channels. Obviously I've got my probes and everything wired in there. I've got my 2 other 4-ohm resistors. This one is going to the main run that we're going to test, and then the subwoofer is going to this one because it's more powerful. So now that you've seen all the wire, let's see what this thing will actually do. Note that I plan on testing this high current and high voltage mode in the configurations so we can see how much of a difference it actually makes. We're testing the front channels with a 1 kHz test tone, and it's rated 75 watts by 4. Looks like we got 69 watts, pulled 79 amps at 14.08 volts. Now I will test the front channel's bridge at 4 ohms mono, 1 kHz track. This will simulate 2 ohms stereo. 207 watts, 96 amps at 14.05 volts, or 103 watts a side. Onto the subwoofer channels, we will be using a 40 Hz test track on this. We're rated 220 watts by 1. 277 watts, 89 amps at 14.08 volts. Let's test it at high current mode at 4 ohms mono. Even though we know it's going to do less, let's see what it actually does. 172 watts, 83 amps at 14.1 volts. Now that we're in high current mode, let's test it at 2 ohms mono, 40 Hz track. We're rated 280 watts by 1. 334 watts, 115 amps at 13.98 volts. I did switch it over to high voltage mode and it did not work at 2 ohms mono. Our final test will be the 1 ohm mono test, 40 Hz tone. We are rated 280 watts. We did get 361 watts at 144 amps, but we popped a mini 80 amp fuse. Here's my score sheet for Sony Big Red. You can pause the video and check out all the individual scores you want. I know you guys are ready to see what it looks like on the inside, so let's get to it. For those of you guys that really don't like Sony amps, specifically the Explode series, check this out, man. This thing's incredible. It's a work of art to me. You can see here, this is the power supply section. It's got the fuses on the end right here. And then they jumped that over, which, you know, maybe this isn't the best design, but you can tell it definitely was probably hand done. We've got the nice gold Nishcon caps here. Then you've got the subwoofer preamp. So this is a crazy amp, man. I am thoroughly impressed by it. Although that little fan probably is not doing a whole lot to cool it off, but they did think of that. So, I mean, this is real cool. Thank you for all of you who take the time to like, share, and comment and watch all my videos. And a quick shout out to Eric Dudley, who sent me some Rucker Fosgate speakers that I was able to put to use in my daughter's vehicle. Also, you should check out the podcast I do with Derek. It's called 12E Talk. We're live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central. We're also available as an audio-only podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and many more. Shout out to all my Patreon supporters, but a special shout out goes to the newest members of the team, Brent Ballard, Paul Smith, also Edward Arambala, Gene Nava, Joaquin Juarez, Rick Quattlebaum, and Ron White. For as little as $2 a month, you can join the team and get access to Patreon exclusive content not available on YouTube.